our badgers! Stop the cult! Save our badgers! Stop the cult! Save our badgers!
Thank you very much. It's been a year and a half since I've been in Witney. I came here at the start of what became this Badger Army campaign that's now marched in 28 towns and cities across this country, that's brought tens of thousands of people together in what's become the most effective wildlife campaign, I think, in a generation. Combining that with all the work that Lynn and all those wonderful people have done in the fields has made this one of the most politically contentious issues in terms of badger culling in the last generation in terms of farm and environment policies. Last year, Maury did a poll of the 10 most important issues of concern that were reflected with MPs, and badger culling came number 5. Fox hunting actually came number 10. So what does that tell us? It tells us that wildlife matters to people in this country. It tells us that the wildlife vote will count when it comes to the election next Thursday. And I can tell you it's going to count because this government have gone out of their way to try and shut charities down during the last 6 weeks. Their gagging legislation, which is now on the statute books and is being implemented with full vigour, has basically shut down many voices of organisations we should have heard of in the last 6 weeks. From Friends of the Earth, from Greenpeace, from Help the Aged. And people like me are now left actually talking as individuals today because I cannot represent the organisation that protects certain little stripy animals that you're all aware of, because I've had 2 letters from the Charity Commission saying that I can't speak on their behalf to you today. Because if I do so, it might mean that the charity could possibly be taking a view on a policy that it was established to protect that species in the first place, which is absolute madness. But this is a democracy. Freedom of speech matters. People have died in this country in our wars and our conflicts to defend it. And I believe in it, all of you believe in it. We will not be gagged, we will not be silent. That's why we're here today in David Cameron's backyard. That's why we will not go away. That's why we will make this count on May the 7th. And does it matter? Of course it matters. Because David Cameron, working with his mate Nick Clegg, over the last 5 years, have played politics with our wildlife. They spent £15 million, nearly £6,500 per badger killed, to wipe them out in parts of Gloucestershire and Somerset in the most disgusting, disgraceful way possible by a so-called free shooting policy that has been an absolute failure, that's resulted in many badgers taking 5, 10, 15 minutes to die, to drag themselves off of multiple organ failure and blood loss, which should disgust anyone that is caring and compassionate about how we protect our wildlife. It's not helped farmers. It's been a massive distraction from getting on top of more improved testing systems for cattle control movements, systems that have proved hugely valuable in Wales where there's been no culling at all, where they've brought down the level of disease in terms of new outbreaks by 48% in the last 5 years alone. And yes, Labour is absolutely right to say it will stop the pilot culls. Labour is absolutely right to say it will stop the extension of this policy. And I'm pleased to have played a part, as many of you have, in influencing the party to put those commitments in its manifesto. I was also very pleased to see one word added to the manifesto, which was discussed greatly with me and others in the shadow cabinet, the use of the word cruel. Because it's very easy for politicians to say this hasn't worked, as Duncan has quite rightly said, to say that it doesn't have a scientific basis, so we shouldn't do it, and it's a waste of taxpayers' money. It's not so easy for them to say we shouldn't kill badgers, because it's damn well bloody cruel, and it is, and it should stop. And I see no difference between badger baiting, where you're putting dogs down sets and ripping them apart, and between fox hunting, where you're sending hounds after foxes to rip them apart. The only difference I see is the social economic background and political influence of some of the people undertaking it, which means they're friends of the Prime Minister, or he's out there doing it himself. The law is the law. Fox hunting is cruel, disgusting, and was banned. Badger baiting is cruel and disgusting and was banned. Both of them should result in prison sentences and large fines for those involved. And I'm afraid this government have not done enough to make wildlife crime matter. At times they've been indifferent to it. At times they've basically turned a blind eye to it. And at times, I'm afraid, they've been in bed with the people doing it. And yes, I work on international wildlife conservation. I care deeply about the future of Africa's elephants and rhinos, have been talking and working with politicians, including senior Conservative politicians over the last few years. And I'm grateful to William Hague and Lord Dominic and other people who've actually done good work on this. But it's no good standing up for animals abroad if we don't give a damn about protecting them at home. People say to me, does this wildlife thing matter? Are you just getting a bit carried away? Well, I've been up and down this country over the last few weeks, last 6 weeks of this campaign. I've been in Scotland, I've been in Gloucestershire, I've been in Somerset, I've been in Derbyshire, I've been in Kent. I've been doing political hustling debates that I've chaired with Conservative candidates, with UKIP candidates, with Labour candidates, with Green candidates, with Liberal Democrats and Independents. And you know what I found? It's because we've caused such a fuss, because we've made our voices heard, this election has seen more debate at a local level, maybe not at a national level, but a local level on wildlife conservation than we've seen in generations. And that's a good thing. We've been packing village halls. We've had people jumping up and down. We've had local press coverage. And you know what? In some of those seats, we're going to make a bloody difference on Thursday. In Stroud, we're going to make a difference. In High Peak, we're going to make a difference. In Worcester, we're going to make a difference. A few hundred seats could decide the outcome of some of those elections. And this election might be down to 5 or 10 seats. So actually badger culling and fox hunting and wildlife crime could decide who is going to be in number 10 Downing Street. And that is important. And that's why we're here. And that's why the wildlife vote is growing. There are millions of people in the RSPCA. There are millions of people in the Wildlife Trust. There are millions of people that support the Hunt Saboteurs, League Against Cruel Sports, the Badger Trust, Born Free Foundation, Care for the Wild. All the organisations I could talk about, the RSPB. We don't often hear them combined in a political force like our friends in the Countryside Alliance, but mark my words, they're more powerful. They have a moral majority and a moral authority that the hunt lobby does not have, and they're scared. They're worried, because if we come together and we unify and we show our strength, we will win these issues in the courts. We will win these issues in Parliament. We will make a difference. We are a caring, compassionate society in this country. As Lynn was saying all those years ago when you were campaigning against the breedings of cats for vivisection purposes, or for what we're doing here about badgers or fox hunting, for all the campaign events that I've been involved with about dolphins and rhinos and elephants and lions this year that have brought thousands of people together. When we sat in front of Liv's Trust a few weeks ago, and Peter there, our chairman of Badger Trust, was with me too, she's in another world. She didn't understand about wildlife crime. But one of the points I made to her is she kept harping on about, well, they're killing badgers, aren't they, in Ireland? So why can't we do it here? Well, my mum's Irish. I love Ireland. But Ireland is not Britain. There are caring, compassionate people in Ireland who stand up for wildlife, but not in the same number that we do here. We haven't had marches across Irish towns and cities against culling. They've killed tens of thousands of badgers. They've filled skips with them. They've shot them. They've snared them. They've gassed them. That doesn't make the Irish people bad. But what it does show you that it's something very special about Britain. Something very special that brings us all together, different walks of life, ages, ethnic backgrounds, political interests or none. The one thing that unites us is that we care about animals. And if we care about animals, we care about the people we share this planet with as well. If we're cruel and evil to animals, surprise, surprise, quite often we're quite cruel and evil to people as well. And wildlife crime needs to be tackled for that purpose. One of the great tragedies of this badger cull policy is that the government knew from the very beginning that if it culled badgers, it was going to give the green light to a huge increase in persecution. It did its own research, had its own risk analysis that it undertook, including representatives of the NFU in secret. And we took 2 years in the High Court and spent a lot of money to get hold of the documentation. And what did it tell us? If you go ahead with a badger cull, you're going to see a significant increase in illegal killing of badgers. Well, I never, because we've definitely seen that. Every day I see reports come to me of badgers being snared, badgers being shot, badgers being skinned and left by the side of the road, badgers being gassed, petrol being poured down their sets and set alight. This animal has legal protection, but it's one of the most abused animals, I would say, anywhere in the world. And this government knows that was going to happen, and they did nothing to stop it. And yes, the National Farmers Union can write me all the letters they want in the world going, Dominic, you're not being fair to farmers, we're not killing badgers. I'm not saying you're only killing badgers. There are property developers, there are psychopaths, there are hunt people doing it. But there's a fair few farmers and landowners doing it as well. And I'm not going to go quiet, and I don't expect any of you to do so. Because I expect the government, I expect the farming industry, I expect the police and everyone else involved to put a stop to it. Because the law is the law. These animals have protection, and they have it for good reason. Because when it was given to them in the early 70s, their numbers had been decimated by badger baiters, who had destroyed tens of thousands of them and their sets across the country. And it took people like you, a generation ago, to make a stand, just as we have, to say they'd had enough, to get to their MPs, to say we wanted to see legislation to protect these animals, to sit on sets, as you've been doing, Lynn, and others over the last year or two, to protect them, to do everything they could to make a stand, and to tell other people that this was wrong. And what really makes me feel better about being British is lots of people who come on these marches have never seen a badger alive. You've only ever seen them maybe dead by the side of the road. And that doesn't mean you don't care about them, doesn't mean you don't think they have a value, doesn't mean you're not going to kick up a fuss if people are going to try and kill them. Quite rightly you are. All politicians need to listen to what we have to say. This election on Thursday is probably going to be the tightest in 40 years. And it's going to be difficult for everyone. I'll be honest, I'll give you my views on this for what it's worth. I think the only winners on May the 7th will be the SNP. There'll be a tidal wave coming, and it'll change a lot about politics. And it's going to be very difficult for the Labour Party to deal with that, but they will have to. And I don't think Labour are probably going to win as many seats as Mr. Cameron. It's going to be very, very close. And our friend David's going to jump up and down and claim he's got the moral right to govern. But you know what? I don't think he's going to have enough people to govern with. But Ed Miliband will have an opportunity to build an alliance, but it means he's going to have to reach out and work and take some difficult decisions. And yes, talk to other parties. But I think there's a consensus and a view here and across this country that there's a majority of parties that want to lock the Tories out. They should work and they should make that happen. And true political leadership will be shown when sometimes you have to just put the short-term interests of the party aside for the long-term interests of the country. And we want to see a government, and I want to see Ed Miliband as Prime Minister, but I want to see a government that will be able to do what's right for people, what's right for animals, and what's right for the environment. What I don't want to see, I don't think anyone wants to see in this audience today, is that our friend Mr. Cameron holds on when he has no right to. He expands this badger cull. He weakens further the fox hunting legislation. He allows the killing of buzzards and raptors and the shooting and landowning industry to become more powerful and influential in politics in this country. And we have 5 years of this locked in, and we will not be able to stop this tragedy. Because all the hard work, all the sweat, all the toil that tens of thousands of people put in, we deserve better than that. So we're going to say to all our politicians on Thursday, you listen to what we have to say. You think very, very carefully about the decisions you make. We want to do what's right for this country. I hope that we will wake up on Friday morning and we will see a better start. We will see parties working together. We will see wildlife at the centre of political life in this country again, as well as protection of the environment. And we'll start to live in a better, less darker future than we have over the last 5 years. Let's keep fighting. Don't lose your spirit. If we have one hell of a celebration when we finish this and we get a good result on Thursday, I'll be there, and I know all of you will, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dominic.